Last year, I tried what would end up becoming my #1 favorite mousepad for tracking aim, the Skypad 3.0. And for the most part, I still think that, even though I've tried many more mousepads since then. That is, until now, because there's a new Skypad in town. This is the Skypad 4.0. Or rather, the Wallhack SP004, because Skypad has officially rebranded themselves, while still keeping SP on their product name. Now, I've been using the Skypad 3.0 as my main mousepad for quite some time, and if you haven't seen my review, make sure to check it out, as many of the things I point out in that video will still apply to this new one as well. I used the 3.0 for almost 10 of the last 12 months, and it's usually what I go back to when I'm done testing other mousepads, so I went into trying this new surface texture from the perspective of someone that already loved the surface texture of the 3.0. And right off the bat, it did not take me very long to figure out that I now prefer the SP4. And there's a few reasons for this, which I'll be getting into, but if you already have a Skypad 3.0 and you're wondering if you should upgrade, it's a little hard to say. If you're a hardcore enthusiast, then it may be, but otherwise the differences are honestly small enough that it's kind of hard to justify spending the money. But of course, like I said, I personally do like the SP4 more, and I will be maining it over my Skypad 3.0. Not only is it wider on the Y-axis, but it's also smoother and slightly less sticky on the skin, although I'd still recommend wearing a long sleeve. However, the two biggest changes are the new silicone grip on the bottom that spans across the whole pad instead of just the 4 corners, and lastly, the most impactful change is the glide of the new surface texture. Right now, there does seem to be some conflicting information from reviewers whether or not the glide is faster than the 3.0. Some say it is, and some say it isn't. All I can say is that on my copy specifically, the glide on the Skypad 4 was initially much slower. In other words, the out-of-the-box speed was a more controlled feeling. But it didn't stay like this. For full transparency, I have about 3,000 hours of in-game time on my copy of the Skypad 3, while I only have about 60 on my Skypad 4 so far, as I've only had it for a little over a week. There does seem to be a break-in period for me because whenever I move my mouse to the edges and corners of the pad, it's much slower than the center of the pad. And the more I use it, the more my copy is becoming just as fast as everyone else says theirs is. So do keep that in mind. The new one is going to be harder to control once you break it in all the way. Personally, this was kind of a bummer to me simply because I had fell in love with the out-of-box glide. I thought it was almost the perfect mousepad for me. And now that it's getting faster, I am going to have to get used to that again. However, despite that, because of what I mentioned earlier, the new surface being less sticky, I do still think using the Skypad 4 is an overall more pleasant experience. Now, I should also mention that the SP4 is slightly quieter compared to the other Skypads, so if the obnoxious noise was something that really bothered you on the old Skypads, then this is definitely an upgrade in that regard. Wallhack has also included some mouse skates specifically designed for glass pads in collaboration with X-Ray Pad. These are the Obsidian Pro skates, which reduce the noise even more. And I found the glide to be very solid on these as well. This is a personal preference thing, but they give you a little more control opposed to regular PTFE skates. However, when pairing them with the SP4, because the SP004 is already so fast, it doesn't feel like you're making your tracking feel bogged down or muddy. But I do find the subtle change in speed help with my steadiness, and it does help ever so slightly by reducing unintentional mouse movements. I ended up liking these mouse skates a lot more than I thought I would. So that's the gist of it as far as the differences are concerned, but if you're unfamiliar with the Skypad in general, or you've never tried one for yourself, then make sure to check out my other video because I go way more in depth about the pros and cons of using a glass pad. And all the typical quirks of using a hard pad are still going to apply to this one as well. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to stop by my live streams and join my Discord. I'll be putting way more time into this pad, and I'll of course be streaming a lot of it.